Yeah, it's one heart, one shot, now the future is yours. Go! I'm turning dreams into reality. In the love with the...
All right, we are live. How are you all doing? Hope you guys are having a phenomenal Tuesday evening. For those of y'all that are new to Pre-PT Grind, welcome. You are in the right place if you are trying to become a physical therapist, regardless of whether you're in high school, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, non-traditional student, wherever you're at. If you're trying to get into physical therapy, or you've gotten accepted and you just want to continue learning more, you're in the right place. My name is 𝙄𝙧𝙚-𝙧𝙚. I'm a physical therapist, one of the co-founders of Pre-PT Grind, and our job is to help y'all get into PT school. And so you are actually tuning in for what has easily become my favorite series that we do. And I love it because it has so much transparency and so much realness to it. And it's our Pre-PT Inspire series. And what this is, for those of y'all that have never seen this is actually episode 50. So these are students that we're bringing in who have actually already gotten accepted into PT school. They're also a part of our accepted system coaching program that helps them get into PT school. And they're going to share their stories. And the other 49 people who have been interviewed prior to this, you find their interviews on our podcast, on YouTube, on our Facebook page. And why it's so phenomenal is because we don't talk just about the good stuff. And the good stuff is like, I got into PT school, everything worked out well. We also talk about the hard moments. And I think for a lot of you that are currently on your journey to apply, whether you're getting ready to apply, you have a lot longer before you decide to apply, a lot of us feel like we're the only ones going through our particular struggles, whether it's grades, whether it's rejection from PT school, whether it's GRE, whether it's anxiety or overwhelm, and so on and so forth. And so we just want y'all to actually hear like what struggles each guest had, so that you can be like, whoa, wait a minute. So you telling me that Dr. Washington had that same like the same thing I'm experiencing right now is what she went through? Oh, come on now. Like, okay, maybe I can get accepted into physical therapy school. And that's what we want you to get from this. If after watching these interviews, you say to yourself, maybe I can get accepted into PT school, that little seed of hope is all we need you to have, so that you can now start saying, okay, now what do I need to do to actually make that happen? So Kierra, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling good. I'm happy to be here, and I'm thankful that, I got the opportunity to share my story.
Oh, I love it. For those of y'all that are watching live right now, feel free to comment #team live in the comments below. Tag your friends as well. These are always just cool to share with your pre-PT friends, because everybody needs to be inspired. So feel free to share this with your friend, and let's get the party started. So tell us a little bit about what led you to physical therapy. Before we get to the good stuff, which is what your struggles were, like what drew you to this profession in the first place, so that we can understand why we even, went through all the things that you had to go through to ultimately get into PT school. So why physical therapy for you? And where did that start from?
So I'm going to be completely honest. When the movie Just Right came out in 2010 with Queen Latifah and Common, she was a physical therapist. I never really knew what physical therapy was. Like, I knew what the realm kind of was, but I watched that movie. Granted, it was like a love story, but still just seeing her and what she did, she helped Common get back to playing for the playoffs, I think. And at the end, they fell in love, but really, I just focused on her career, and I thought, wow, that's kind of a cool career. So I knew that when I got to college, I went to Grand Valley State University in Michigan. I knew that I couldn't be a physical therapist, starting out in my undergrad. So I decided to go the route of athletic training. I got my degree in athletic training in 2018. And while on the track to athletic training, I was able to intern at a lot of physical therapy clinics alongside like an athletic trainer. And so I got to see what a physical therapist did day to day. And then my last semester, I got to intern at Northwestern University with their football team. And I got to work alongside the athletic trainer and physical therapist. And he ran the whole rehab at Northwestern. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, this is something I could see myself doing. So I just looked into it a little bit more. I became a physical therapy tech, working at an ATI for 2 years, just to get that sense of, is this really, really what I want to do before I dive into it? And just working there, I was working in like a low income area and just seeing all the people that came in and just see, you know, their rehab and seeing them go from can't walk to like they're running and getting ready to do marathons. I was just impressed. So I'm like, okay, I want to do physical therapy. This is for me.
You said Queen Latifah is the reason why you chose. Like I'm still on that. Like I'm still, Common and Queen Latifah. Who would have thought? Wow.
I know, but I just thought it was a really cool movie, and I used to watch it all the time. And yes, like I said, it was a love story, but just seeing like her work in the NBA, I'm like, that's cool.
Oh, that's dope. That's absolutely amazing. And I mean, you were just working with a few athletes,
Right,
a little bit ago, and you had a few like tonight she had like shoulder dislocation she was taking care of and a whole bunch of things like that. But I'm glad you found the profession. I just love to hear the stories of how people chose the profession, because sometimes it's the typical, I got injured, or it's Queen Latifah. You never know what you're gonna hear. You know what I mean? Like so I love it. I love it. All right. So now we know why you chose physical therapy. Let's go to the part that most people actually want to hear, right? Because a lot of us as students feel like we struggle individually. So for those of y'all that are watching live, can you say me if you at any time during your journey, maybe it's right now, maybe it's recently, you felt like you were alone, you felt like you were the only one kind of experiencing your struggles, your frustrations? It's like, man, like other people seem to have it easier, or they got it figured out, they don't have it like me, they don't have my struggles, they don't have my frustrations. How many of y'all have ever felt like that? Because I know I felt like that as a pre-PT at certain points, right? Because when we struggle as humans, we just typically think it's just us, right? And because of that, we actually like blow it up even more in our heads, and it stresses us out even more. So we want to hear about what your struggles were. All right. So what were your biggest struggles, biggest obstacles, biggest, moments of frustration as a student, so that we can understand where you had to come through. And then we'll obviously, later on talk about how you got accepted into PT school and all that stuff. But what were your biggest roadblocks, biggest obstacles, moments where you felt like, maybe this isn't going to work out? So tell us about that.
So I think one of the biggest obstacles I had in the beginning was just kind of finding a mentor. I would reach out to people and I would either get very dry responses or no response at all, or they'll be like, here's my phone number, and I would contact them and then they would never contact me back. So at first I was kind of losing confidence, contacting these people, because it's like, well, why don't you want to help? Like, I'm not asking for money. I'm just asking for just a little bit of information. And also, being an African American in the physical therapy world, there's only, I think out of all physical therapists, only 5% are Black, and less than 2% are Black women in physical therapy. So I tried to find a mentor who looked like me so I can share experiences. And again, it was hard because it's just hard to find them. So that was really a big struggle I had, because I was asking questions and I had questions, but I had nobody to turn to. So I was completely lost when I applied. And so this time was my second time applying. The first time I applied, it was bad. I had no clue what I was doing. I was just lost. And so that, and then the motivation to retake classes, retake the GRE, it was just like, oh, do I really want to do this? Do I want to spend the money? Do I want to spend the time, And I didn't want to do it all over again and then not get accepted again, because it felt like, I would have just wasted my money. So those were probably the two biggest struggles I had on this journey. It was just hard because I had no clue what to do.
Wow. How many of y'all can relate to that? Just the frustration and struggle. And you're talking about, the first time you applied and it was 10 schools that you got rejected by, right? And just kind of going through that process of trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to do this again? And also that point that you made about, seeing yourself, right? Like, I think it was like for me, like, I don't think I saw my first Black physical therapist until I was in my last year of PT school. You know what I mean? And so part of that is just kind of seeing someone that looks like you, and there's something powerful about it. It's just, I mean, like, I don't know, people like try to shy away from that conversation, but it's real. Like, it's like, yo, like, can I actually see myself there? And I think it's in the same way how we like to hear other people's obstacles, right? Like, if someone's been rejected before, they're like, I want to hear from someone that has been rejected as well. Exactly. And has also gotten into PT school. It's the same exact like philosophy and psychology, because as human beings, we want to feel like someone else has basically gone before us and paved a path, and we're like, okay, like cool, there's proof that I can do it. So so appreciate you sharing that. Let's go into a little bit. While going through those struggles, you were looking for guidance, right? You just mentioned to us that you were looking for mentorship. You ultimately ended up like kind of like stumbling upon us, right? And so
Right.
what led you to say, hey, like I need to get some help? What led you to even coming, like joining us and choosing to work with us? Because you ended up joining our coaching program, the Accepted System. How did that whole thing transpire? Like how did we even get started with that? And you were telling me a little bit about it prior to this call starting, but break it down for the people. And like I said, tonight you're sharing the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So let us know.
So I kind of began my journey in 2019, early 2019. I'm like, okay, I gotta take more chemistry classes because my undergrad, I didn't really have it. I had the classes for my undergrad, but I didn't have classes for anywhere else. So that kind of sucks. So I had to take a lot of other classes. And I'm like, okay, if I just take these and at least get a B or an A, I'll be good. That wasn't the case because I still need to take a lot. So in 2019, I focused pretty much the whole spring semester retaking classes. I was working, like I said, as a PT tech at an ATI, trying to get those hours. So I had my hours, I had my letters of recommendation, but my GPA was still low. And I didn't even know this until I sent my application in October, and I got a rejection letter 18 hours later from the same school that I applied to. And I was like distraught. I was at work crying. I'm like, okay, this is the end of the world. And so I emailed the admissions counselor and I said, well, what did I do wrong? And she was like, well, did you calculate your GPA? And I was like, no, I didn't know I had to do that. And so when I calculated it, I was at like a 2.9 for like your prereq GPA. My overall GPA was fine, but the prereq, which is the one that they pay attention to the most, was low. And so she was like, if you really want to be competitive, you need to retake these classes. So I'm like, retake more classes? And so I was kind of like really distraught, and my confidence was super low, like December 2019. But I'm like, I'm going to do this. I really want to be a physical therapist. So on New Year's Eve, I wrote down all my goals. I didn't go out for New Year's Eve. I wrote down all my goals. I sat in my room and prayed and just said, this is really how I want my 2020 to go. So I started 2020. One of my coworkers actually got into physical therapy school. So I'm like, cool, I can just ask her. So I talked to her. She gave me a lot of advice. My job paid for my classes that I had to retake over the summer. So I didn't even have to spend money to retake my classes. And then COVID hit. So I was taking all these online classes. I got removed from my normal job as an athletic trainer in a high school, and I got placed as a COVID screener in the hospital. So that was kind of rough, trying to do schoolwork, working with COVID. But I think a blessing that came out of that is that I got to meet a Black physical therapist, and I worked with her every day as a screener. And so she just kind of told me what she did as a physical therapist and her journey. And we just like really connected. And she had a lot of connections with the schools that I applied to. So that was a really good thing. And so, I'm talking to her, and another thing that I really did was I reached out to people on Instagram. I slid in so many DMs. If you had DPT in your bio, I slid in your DMs. I said, I didn't care. I'm really a shy person, but this is something I really wanted. So I said, YOLO, I'm going to do it. So I slid in this one girl's DMs. She's from Michigan. And, the first time I slid in her DMs, I just introduced myself. And like 5 minutes later, she responded, gave me her cell phone number. I called her that night, and me and her had like a 2-hour conversation just about goals, physical therapy. And then like we got off the phone and she texted me like, hey, I know you're interested and you're trying to get in. Have you heard of pre-PT grind? And I'm like, no. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna check out their page. So I checked out their page and I was blown away. I saw all the stories, the testimonials, and I'm like, this is something I really want to do because I know it'll help me. So 2020 summer, I sat through the like accepted system, like preview, I guess. And, they were talking, giving us information. I'm taking notes. And then at the end, they decided to tell us the price of what the accepted system was. And when they told me the price, I'm like, ooh, I don't know, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. So I called my mom right after and I'm like, Mom, this is something I really want to do, but that price is a little steep. And she's like, if this is something you really want to do, you need to invest in yourself. She said, if you really want to be a physical therapist, then you really need to invest in yourself. So I said, okay. And pre-PT Grind has payment plans. So I signed up for the payment plan and I joined the acceptance system and haven't looked back. It's just been a blessing that I've been able to have this opportunity.
Man, first of all, yeah, we ain't cheap, y'all. We ain't cheap, y'all, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. But so I'm actually gonna read you some of the comments, all right? Because I think this is super, super important. Christina said that was definitely divinely guided. So that was what she said. Shannon said the prereq GPA was disheartening. Way to stick with it. 2020 hustle, Dr. Washington. I actually want to hit on Shannon's comment real quick before we take you to the next question. Like, for the students right now who are having to deal with retaking classes, psychologically, like how do you tap into a space like from your experience, like how does someone tap into a space where they're able, and I didn't prepare you for this one, this is a question I'm throwing out because you brought up the conversation, so I was like, hey, I'm gonna dig a little deeper because I think this will be super, super valuable to students who right now are basically at that point where they're like, oh my goodness, like I have so many prereqs to retake, or non-traditional students who have been out of school for several years and now they're coming back and a lot of their prereqs are expired and they're like, oh, I gotta retake them, right? And so like how does someone tap into that mental space where they're able to still say, I'm gonna go back at it and take care of business? Because that's tough. Like you were talking about doing it with quite a few different classes, and then obviously finding out that you had a 2.9 prerequisite GPA and you're like, oh, I gotta retake more, right? And so from your experience, like how does someone do that? Because I think that's so key for a lot, and this might kind of be a little bit part of like the last question where you give advice, but let's actually talk about it right now. Like from your journey, from your experience, how would you help somebody else, or how would you talk to a pre-PT who right now is basically kind of, and I don't want to call it being stubborn because it's a lot. Like when we find out that we have to take classes again, it's a lot. It's time, it's money, it's like it's frustrating if we've taken the class before. It's like, oh, I gotta sit through chemistry again, I gotta do bio again, I gotta do calc again or physics again. And so how would you kind of advise students that are in that state of mind right now? And then we will continue with the rest of the questions.
I would just say you really have to outweigh the pros and cons. If this is something you really, really want to do, and if this is your passion and your goal and your end goal, you just have to really sit and say, like, I have to have some sacrifices and I'm going to have to sacrifice my time, some money, just to retake these classes. And yeah, it might not be easy, but if this is something you want to do, you're going to do it. And that's kind of what I told myself. Like, it was terrible taking all these online classes, especially during COVID, taking chem lab, bio, all that stuff. Like it was hard, but at the end of the day, it was rewarding because I got a good grade and therefore it raised my, overall GPA. So if I had to sacrifice those 8 weeks for a future career, then that's what I just had to do. And that's kind of what I was willing to do. And like I said, it was hard. I really had to sacrifice a lot of time, but it paid off in the end.
I love it. I love it. I think one way that we also say it sometimes, we say that you're not applying to PT school to get into PT school.
Right.
You're applying to PT school to become a physical therapist. So for those of y'all that are listening to this part of this interview, like that's the biggest take home, because it's hard. Like we understand that it's hard. But Dr. Washington, you already know, like it's not easy. Like how frustrated were you when you found out that you had to retake even more classes?
I was thinking, do I really want to do this?
Exactly.
I really was thinking, like, because I'm already had a career, I'm already in my career with athletic training. I just finished a master's, so I already had another degree where I could have gone and did something else in public health. So I really had to sit there and contemplate, like, do I want to go further, or am I okay with what I'm doing now? And I'm not saying my career is bad. I love my career and everything that comes with it, but I think that I could do more and I could be more. So that's why I really wanted to, retake the classes so I can be a physical therapist.
Boom, boom. I love that, man. Like for those of y'all watching, was that part of this interview so far? We still have several questions, but was that part valuable? Say save value in the comments if y'all felt like that was like significant. And part of it is just, I want y'all to catch it, because that's such a big thing. And I think we overlook it. And many times when we don't want to kind of experience something, we avoid it, we procrastinate on taking classes again, we find excuses to delay, and so on and so forth. And the reality is that it sucks. It does. Let's just talk about it like it is. However, what we're hearing tonight is a perspective shift. Like, what am I focusing on? Am I focusing on being a physical therapist? Okay, cool. If I really want to be a physical therapist, what is it really going to take? Like, what am I willing to kind of go through even when it sucks? And then, obviously on the other side, it pays off, but it doesn't mean that it's always easy. So I love the fact that we're talking about this. But let's go to the next question. So you joined the Accepted System coaching program. How specifically did the Accepted System help you go from where you were after getting rejected by 10 schools, kind of feeling frustrated with all the classes you had to retake and so on and so forth, and even doubting whether PT was even the path you still wanted to go with because you were in a different career path? How did the Accepted System help you basically prepare for this past application cycle so that you could ultimately, lock yourself into a program and be in this position today, talking about how you got accepted? So how did it specifically help you for students that, at some point might decide, hey, I want to be a part of the Accepted System? How can it help me too? So tell us about your experience in the program.
So I believe the first thing that really helped me was my procrastination. I can be a very big procrastinator, wait till the last minute. And I learned that the hard way. Like I said, in 2019, if the application was due on October 16th at midnight or 11:59, I sent it in at 11:58 that same day. So once I realized that's not the normal thing that people did after talking through the Accepted System, I'm like, okay, I really need to get my things together. So one thing you really taught me is to really time my day out. And that helped me tremendously. Hour by hour, from 8 to 9, I would do this. From 9 to 10, I would do this. 10 to 11, I would do this. So that really helped me with procrastination, because it's like, okay, well, I can't move on to this thing until this hour is completed. And I would even break down like, okay, I'm gonna sit on my phone for this hour, but I'm gonna do my apps the next hour, So I did incorporate some fun time, but that really helped my procrastination, because it was really bad, honestly, especially because I didn't really know what I was doing. So you really did help me out with that. And you told me to get that planner. That really helped also. So that helped me. Having a coach, Robin, she helped me a lot with being accountable. Every week she would text me, hey, how's everything going? I heard you were working on those essays. Did you finish it? Did you do this? Did you do that? So just holding me accountable of everything that I needed to do for the week. And if I had goals, like we would talk about my goals, like I want to have it done by this date. A week before that, hey, you said you wanted it done by this date. Is it done yet? Did you send it to me? I haven't got anything. So that really helped. And then lastly, you just gave me the tools for success. When it was interview time, you all helped with interview questions. We did mock interviews, and that helped tremendously. When it came to, what was the other thing? The interviews and
the GRE, the everything.
Not the GRE. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. It was just really the interview for sure. And reaching out to schools, you all sent like the email, like, hey, if this is what you need to send to the schools, like that helped tremendously. And like when I talked to those people in my interview for the questions, they were mind blown by the questions that I were asking. And I was like, I'm just going to give it to the Accepted System because they gave me the questions. So that really helped. And that solved my issue, because I was just very nervous about interviews. I'm shaking on the FaceTime, but doing the Zoom calls with Robin really helped and calmed me down. She recorded it so I can see how I look and see how, if I had any mistakes or if I was moving too much, I could see it in the video so I could correct it for the interview that came up.
I love it. I love it. I love it. For those of y'all that are listening to this interview right now, whether live, replay as a podcast, I think this is going to go on YouTube at some point. But for those of y'all that are listening to this and you're like, hey, like where do I even begin, right? Because so Kierra and every other student that has come on to these interviews, and we have plenty more still coming, how did they basically get clear? Because they all started in different places. Some of them had been rejected before. Some of them had super low GPAs, and like many of you, they just kind of felt stuck. They were like, where do I begin? How do I get clear? How do I build the right confidence? How do I get control over my acceptance as a whole? And so what we've done is we've actually created a 4-part free video series so that you guys can actually learn the key fundamental aspects of what they did differently to become who they became, which is accepted students. And so go to acceptancenavigator.com if you have not watched it yet. If you have, good. If you have not, go watch it. It's free, like I said. Go watch it tonight. Take some notes. Ask yourself, how does this apply to me? And then we'll go from there. But go there right now. We'll actually finish the interview, and then afterwards, go listen to it, because right now, like every single one of you should feel like you have some sense of control and direction as a pre-PT, so that y'all can get into PT school. All right, that's the goal. Y'all want to become physical therapists? Let's make it happen. All right. So let's end with 2 final questions. The first one of my 2 final questions is, let's talk about the day you got accepted into PT school, because I want the students that are listening right now to kind of celebrate with you, but to also like look into their future a little bit, right? Like live vicariously through you a little bit. And so tell us a little about that acceptance letter. Like, what was going through your mind? How did you find out? Like, what were your emotions? Did you throw your phone? Like, I don't know. Tell us what you did. Like, so break that day down for us so we can celebrate with you, and then we have one more question afterwards.
So it was a very roller coaster day, I will say that. So it happened on December 21st, 2020. I was at work. So I already got accepted into a school in Texas. And, you know, after talking to people who already went to that school, they were like, you know, it's a good school, but make it your last resort. So that kind of was like, ooh. And they only said that because of the tuition, you know, other factors. Not, you know, not the school, but just other factors, me moving and all that stuff. So I'm like, okay, but at least I had a safe, you know, if I didn't get in anywhere else, I had a school I got into. So it was December 21st, I was at work. I was working as a physical therapy receptionist in the rehab department because of COVID shut down my job again. So I was working in the physical therapy department and nothing was really going on. So I'm checking my emails, and I got an email from one of my top 2 schools. And I'm so scared to open it. I opened it and it said I got waitlisted, and I was distraught. I was at my desk, I was crying, I was texting my mom, like, what am I gonna do? I texted my boyfriend, like, I'm so distraught, like, I don't know what to do. I don't wanna move to Texas, you know, I was just crying. And so he was like, you know, you still got a few more schools. Like, he's all hyping me up. You still got a few more schools, you'll get into it. Don't be, you know, they suck anyway, you know, trying to make me feel better about myself. So again, I'm sitting at my desk crying, and he's like, you know, you're gonna get into Grand Valley, which was our undergrad school that we went to. And I'm like, I'm not going to get in there. That's a very competitive school. Everybody who I know applied there got rejected. And I heard that, like, just rumors like, oh, well, they don't accept their old students and they don't really give them priority. So I'm like, oh, I already threw that application off the desk, because I'm like, I know I'm not going to get in. So obviously I'm upset, I'm crying. And 5 minutes after I got the wait list, I got an email from Grand Valley saying that I was accepted. And so my sad tears turned into happy tears. And I'm at my desk, like, crying tears of happiness. And I texted my boyfriend, like, I got accepted. And he was like, see, I told you, you were being so negative. I knew you were going to get in. And I was just ecstatic. Like, I couldn't even explain how I felt.
That might be one of the craziest roller coaster stories I've heard yet. Like, 5 minutes of like disaster.
Yeah, literally. It was 5 minutes in between each email.
Probably felt like the longest 5 minutes of your life, didn't it?
Yeah.
Man, wow. And then obviously, you know, afterwards, you're like, what were some of your thoughts? Like did you ever reflect back on some of your struggles, or were you just like in this moment of just like, oh, it's like, I'm not gonna have to go to Texas, you know, like what were your thoughts, like, as you kind of like processed it and let it all sink in for you?
Well, first, it was a big weight lifted off my shoulder, you know, a weight that's been on there for years kind of just disappear. And it kind of just made it feel like I was good enough to get into a school. All my hard work paid off. You know, me retaking those classes I did not want to take, it paid off. Me DMing, sliding in the 10, 15 people's DMs a week, it paid off. You know, coming out of my comfort zone, finding people in the hospital to talk to about physical therapy, emailing all these professors at different schools, you know, trying to be relatable so they can remember my name. Like, it just felt like everything paid off and everything was worth what I went through.
Wow, wow. That's a perfect transition to our final question. What is your advice like for students who are right now, exactly where you were a year ago, right? So March 16th, 2020, you were still, like freaking out, still stressed and everything else. We hadn't even started working together yet. And so like at that point, like what would you tell yourself? What would you tell, like if you could go back, and talk to yourself a year ago, or even talk to the students right now who are in that state of just stress and overwhelm and are like, okay, like how much is too much? Like, what do I do? Like, will I ever stand out? Will this ever happen for me? Is this just like is this a hopeless dream, right? Like what advice or wisdom from what you've experienced all around, like what would you tell other students to basically get them to say, to basically keep going? What would you say just based off of everything you've gone through?
A few things that I would say is the first one is don't compare yourself to everybody else around you. That was really a big thing. I saw a lot of my friends getting into law school right after grad or right after undergrad, getting into an MD program right after undergrad, seeing people that I was in college with go straight to PT school right from undergrad. And that was kind of like am I too late? Am I too old to be getting into PT school? And that was something I really had to get out of my mind, because it's like, this is my journey. This isn't anybody else's. So this is what's going to happen in order for me to go on my journey. And I can't compare myself because I don't know what their journey looked like. It could have been way harder, but nobody knows that because, on social media, they only post what they want us to see. So I just really had to think, like, do not compare yourself to everybody's journey and just do you and just stay on your own track, because it'll happen for you when it's supposed to happen for you, as long as you just stay focused. Another one is, don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to be annoying. That's what I had to really learn. If somebody didn't text me back in a week, hey, remember me? We were just texting, like, don't be afraid to be annoying, because at the end of the day, their information can help you. And sometimes people just forget, like, oh, shoot, I meant to text you back, sorry. And it's like, if you kind of find that kind of standoffish, you might miss a big vital information that you need for your application or to get into PT school. So don't be afraid to reach out to people. Make sure you stay organized. I have this notebook here that I have kept all my tabs and stuff of everything that I learned in pre-PT grind. I wrote like manifestations in it. Like, I will get into PT school. I think I still have it right here, actually. Oh yeah, I wrote this on June 15th of 2020 that I will get into PT school. And I wrote this on the very front page of my notebook. Just so I can stay motivated and stay focused. Like, this is what my ultimate goal is, and this is what I really, really want to do. So I wrote my goals down, and every day I would just look at it like, this is really what I want to do. And then the last one is plan your year out. When PTCast opens, so make sure you have everything that you need together before the PTCast even opens. Because like I said, prior to this year, I didn't even log into PTCast until August, and it opened in June of 2019. That's how I had no clue. But when I joined the acceptance system, they told me you should have everything together before you even click, log in when it opens. You should have your letters of recommendation, your observation hours. It might still be a few things that you don't have, like classes, but when it opens, so prepare for that day. And don't wait till last minute to send your applications in. Send them in a month before, 2 months before, because you might get that early acceptance. And if you wait late, you might miss out on your opportunity, which is what happened to me the first time. I submitted mine in October, and they were like, oh, our interviews are done. I'm like, but it said the deadline was October. So that was a very, very learning lesson, or a life lesson I had to learn the hard way.
Grandma, you're taking notes. All right. So that's why I delayed. Y'all, I don't think y'all understand how much wisdom she just gave y'all. Like, I don't think y'all get it. So you said, don't compare. Do not compare. Yo, for those of y'all listening to this, I hope you heard that. Like, one of the biggest things that will hold you back is you trying to like match yourself or size yourself up with your classmates. Or like, one of the worst things y'all could do is like, okay, I'm gonna just say it because we hear live. Like, for example, we have the pre-doctor of physical therapy students page. So if someone posts inside of the pre-doctor of physical therapy students page and says, hey, I'm applying to this school, this is my GPA, is it good enough? Like you're just kind of asking for a comparison thing. Like all we're doing is sizing each other up. Oh, like what was your GPA when you applied? Oh my goodness, you had a 3.7, I have a 3.2. Oh no, like so stop comparing. Like stay in your lane, y'all, because your story is uniquely yours. Your reason for even being here is uniquely yours. Your path is uniquely yours. You know, some people have to get rejected 10 times. Some people get rejected 15 times. Some people get rejected 0 times. Some people have 2.1 GPAs when they start. Some people, like we had a student that just got into PT school and she started with a I think it was like a 1.7 GPA, right? Like her story is coming in a few weeks. So just tune in. So do not compare. Number 2, you said reach out to people. Do not be afraid. Like reach out. You DM'd the mess out of people. So y'all, like even if you're nervous, like connections. Like you don't know what your connections will bring. If you did not DM people, we would have never met.
Right. That's true. Very true.
It was your DMing that led you to somebody that was cool enough to respond to you super quickly, to get on a 2-hour call with you that night. And then later on said, hey, check out these pre-PT grind folk. You sat in for one of our trainings. At the end, we, presented this coaching program, voila, and we're here, right? So DM people, y'all. Listen, y'all have online, y'all got phones. Stop acting like you are isolated. You are not. The world is a lot smaller than you think, especially in the pre-PT world. The other thing you said is plan like crazy. Like plan, y'all. Like do not, like this is not a guesswork game. I think one of the biggest things that students don't realize is like, oh my goodness, like how are students getting in? Well, one of the biggest things they're doing is they're stopping to guess. Like they're not guessing anymore. Most of us guess. Most of us apply and we just like cross our fingers and say, hey, I hope I get into PT school. If that's my case, then I didn't actually prepare properly.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you doing to prepare? Or are you just kind of waiting to see what your classmates are doing and submitting when they submit and starting on the GRE when they start? Y'all, stop playing that game. And the last thing you said is don't trust the deadlines that the schools give you. I almost jumped out of my seat when you said that one, right? Like basically, if a school tells you that their deadline is October 1, don't wait until October 1. Like you really don't know what could happen. Could you get lucky? Yep. Could they also be done with their interviews? Yep. We just heard that, right? So y'all, urgency, y'all. This is so valuable, and I hope y'all took this in. I have to repeat everything you just said because I wanted everyone listening to this to understand how valuable that was and how real that is if you guys want to become strong applicants. And so yeah, that was straight fire, straight fire. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
Just don't doubt yourself. You can do it. You can get into the school. Just follow the steps and just have confidence in yourself. I think that's one thing I didn't have. I didn't have confidence in myself to go that extra mile, DM that extra person. Like I just didn't have it because I was just too scared of the rejection of, well, I already got rejected from schools. I don't want to get rejected from the person on Instagram, but rejections happen. No's happen. And then you're going to get a lot of no's, but you only need one yes.
Girl, I just want to. I wish I had a microphone to just drop. Y'all, yeah. All it takes is one yes. All it takes is one yes from a school. All it takes is one yes from a physical therapist that you're reaching out to. All it takes is one yes from another pre-PT. All it takes is one person to believe in you. All it takes is one. That's it. And I think we're so busy looking for it everywhere, right? And thinking that everything has to be a yes. And exactly. Just because you had one rejection letter, just because you had 10, just because you had 20, like all it takes is one. And if this is your dream, it can be yours. The only way you don't get into physical therapy school, y'all, is if you quit. That's it. That's the only, like, if after your first application cycle, you were like, you know what, I'm done. I'm just gonna kind of quit this thing, then cool. You don't become a physical therapist. That would have been a choice, right? And I think we don't realize that's really the choice that we make. We either quit or we don't, right? So this was super powerful. I hope y'all enjoyed this tonight, y'all. This was straight value. And for those of y'all that have friends that could have used this, share it with them, tag them in it, have them watch this because this is super valuable. And for those of y'all that are looking for direction, go to acceptancenavigator.com. I'm telling you right now, you will not regret it. Like that's like, if you're stuck, that should be your first place to go. Like acceptancenavigator.com. The link is also below. Check it out. And we will see you guys next week. So every single Tuesday night, we have a different student coming in. Typically, it's going to be 9 p.m. Eastern time. So check out the next interview next week, 9 p.m. Eastern time, and we will have one every single week after that, because we want you to believe that it's possible for you. We want you to see every single student that comes on here and say, hey, if they could do it, I can do it too, because this is your dream. This was our dream. Now we're physical therapists, of course, or we're PT students now. But go get it. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So that is it. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Y'all have a good one. See you guys next time. Bye.